Hey guys, welcome back to the GM's table, and I'm just going to talk about like 10 misconceptions I think a lot of people have about 5e Dungeons and Dragons. This is honestly a compilation of comments and summer complaints I see come up when Volos came up and now when Xanthar's has come up, as well as some other discussions about the system in general, as well as a few things bigger than that involve 5e like Unearthed Arcana. I'm gonna pull up my notes. And all right, so the first one is when people go, this isn't how 3.5, or honestly at this point more often, Pathfinder did it. This isn't like that. I'm gonna be real honest here. They did not make D&D 5th edition to compete with Pathfinder at all. If you look at it, it was very much designed to try and get 2nd edition players and your much older players who have been here and stopped buying books decades ago back into buying books. It is to get new people in. As an offshoot and a happy coincidence, they also reconverted a bunch of Pathfinder players back over. Here's just the cut and dry of that. If you want a game that runs like D&D 3.5 or that runs like Pathfinder, if that's the kind of game you want to play those games. That plain and simple. That's what they're there for. All right, 5th edition isn't trying to remake those games or even really improve on those games. I'll say, in my personal opinion, I think they improved a lot of the mistakes they made going from 2nd to 3rd. But that's opinion. As far as from a design philosophy, there was nothing about this game that shows it was trying to compete with Pathfinder. They were just trying to get foothold back in and kind of use this as a building block after the fiasco that happened with 4th. So it really is that simple. Second one up, this is going to be kind of a catch-all whenever people talk about multi-classing. When they're like, well, but this wasn't balanced for multi-classing when we're talking about Unearthed, which we're going to get in Unearthed Arcana, or why won't this person allow multi-classing, or this is the only way to do it is when you multi-class this and all of that. There's something you really, really need to know about the design of 5th edition. They don't intend on you to multi-class. The game is not built for it. They added it because if they don't have it, people will be pissed. But they also did everything they could to curve the shenanigans of 3.5 and Pathfinder multi-classing. This is why whenever somebody goes, well, why doesn't the monk unarmed defense and the barbarian unarmed defense stack anymore? Because it wasn't meant to. Because it got outrageous. They really don't want this. Multi-classing is not a core rule. It is not in D&D Basic, which is the free, these are what the core rules are. In the player's handbook, yes, it exists in the player's handbook. There's several things in the player's handbook that exist that aren't core rules. It's an optional rule. Especially that one says, talk to your GM first. It's because they want it there if you really care about it, but from a design standpoint, no. Even when they talk about Unearthed Arcana, they flat out say, first of all, none of this is perfectly balanced, but flat out they say, and none of it is balanced at all for multi-classing. They don't take multi-classing into the design until after the initial public playtest. That's how late in the game they care about it. All right? If you like multi-classing, if you care about multi-classing, again, that's fine. But it is not the given in this system. It is not a design anchor in this system that makes the system what it is. It's added to make the people who care about it happy. It's not there because it had to be there. Sorry, if I got cold. Oh, this is one I love. Anytime someone says, my character can't be original in 5th edition, or, all characters are the same in 5e. And I've seen this. I also see this for Savage World sometimes. 5th edition goes back to an older style of role-playing, a more creative style of role-playing on the player's part. They don't expect you to have mechanics to make you unique. Just be unique. All right, if we go back to 1st edition D&D, basic expert sets edition of D&D, a fighter literally just had a higher attack bonus than everybody and could use all the gear. That's it. They had no special mechanics. That was what the fighter was I have no special mechanics. All right? This is not a game where everybody has to have a special little widget where you need gunslingers with their grit. Alchemists with their special bombs that only function with alchemists. This is actually, this design philosophy is going to carry on into a lot of the things we're going to talk about, but I want to just cover it here. The designers of 5th edition don't think you need to have a special little snowflake mechanic that only your class will ever have to be unique. There are special mechanics, and most of them are what make the core classes core. When we get into the subclasses versus base classes and why there aren't a lot of base classes, we're going to get back into this. Yes, rogues get sneak attack. All the different rogues will get sneak attack because it's what makes that chunk of character special mechanically. You want to go beyond that, and you can have a party of rogues. They can all be different. That's fine. Add the role play to it. This is them trying to get back to character development and story development. 4E had a really bad problem of the mechanics trumped story and trumped creativity for a lot of people. Some people worked around. I found ways around it. But the mechanics themselves had issues, and that's what they put at the forefront. And it failed them from a business standpoint. It failed them hard. So they're going back to the old way, where your creativity is what matters. All right? That is a design philosophy in this game. Understand that. If you don't like it, that's fine. Again, you want a D&D dungeon bashing game where you got a mechanical widget for everything? That is Pathfinder. That's what Pathfinder's there for. Lots of people love it. Going beyond that, oh yeah, right after. Anyone who says there needs to be more base classes, there aren't enough base classes when we look at all the subclasses we now have. There doesn't. When you break down, again, the design of this game and how it's built, they don't want there to be books and books of classes. I personally think there will be 2 more classes that are going to show up in the near future, and I mean like within the next 3 years. And that's going to be the Artificer and the Psionic. They've been playtesting them as their own classes, and they're likely going to have the Artificer in Eberron and the Psionic in Black Sun, more than likely. There's something also to remember, though. Before they started playtesting the Artificer as its own class, it was being playtested as a Wizard subclass. They, first and foremost, tried to do it as a subclass, and when it didn't work, they then conceded and made it a class. This system, with how the subclasses work and how they're built in every class has to have a subclass, and that's where your flavor goes in. That is where you're going to get the unique mechanics between everybody. Do not expect new classes coming out. Just don't. This isn't that game. Where I'm going to keep going, but carrying on right after that is when people say, oh, where are the prestige classes? When are the prestige classes coming out and all of this? 2 things I've brought up are integral to the prestige classes. The first, they don't plan on releasing a ton of classes. Okay? Prestige classes are classes. This falls under that. The second thing, and this is actually the biggest one, remember in this edition, multi-classing is optional. This is an optional rule that you will have to use another optional rule of prestige classes. They play-tested prestige classes all of once in Unearthed Arcana, and from how it's gone, it looks like it did not actually go over very well. I'm going to get into that a little bit and understanding where the actual presence in the community is. And there's multiple presences, so if you're like, well, I know people, hold your horses. But what used to be prestige classes, guys, are subclasses now, okay? You don't go, I'm a wizard for so many levels, I'm a fighter for so many levels, and then I'm an arcane fighter that gets to do things combined. That's the Eldritch Knight. And the Eldritch Knight is just a subclass. This is actually where they also intend you to multi-class. If you go back to 4th edition, this is how they tried in 4th, and it kind of failed. Where they went, nobody multi-classes at all. If you want to take a second class, you take a feat that gives you some class abilities from another class. Then you can take another feat that gives you bigger class abilities, and finally a third feat that gives you. It was at wills, then encounters, then dailies from another class. So you could tack a little bit of another class onto your class. That's how they wanted you to subclass. 5th, that is the subclass system. The Eldritch Knight's a perfect example. So is the Arcane Trickster. These are classes where it's like, well, but what if I'm a fighter and I want a multi-class wizard? Then you go Eldritch Knight. You become a fighter, and at level 3, you multi-class wizard by picking up a subclass of fighter that gives you some spells. That's the level of multi-classing they want. I haven't looked at the War Mage much, but the War Mage is kind of a counter of that, where you go wizard with a bit of fighter. Those will eventually come out. And where they put the subclass into which base class determines what your main class is, and then the subclass is your secondary. They can do a lot of combos with this. And they're already folding in what were prestige classes into some of these subclasses when you look at them. This is their intent. Again, I wanted to fold this with the new base classes of some of those obscure random side classes from Splat books are subclasses now. The Samurai is just a subclass of fighter because it makes sense and it's easier. It really is. It's a simpler, more elegant system. Moving on from that, though, this is one I love. This came from someone complaining about Xanthars, but it highlights an issue that I think people forget. While they go like, I don't like this, this, and this, when they said about the class options, the player options, they're like, and none of these options seem more powerful than what's already in the player's handbook. All right. Splat books are not supposed to be more powerful, ideally. From a design standpoint, they're not. They're supposed to provide different options. They're supposed to give you other avenues to take characters. Now, there's always the temptation to make them more powerful, and inevitably a lot of Splat books end up doing it, because if they're more powerful, there's a set group of gamers that will automatically buy it because they want to have the most powerful option. The problem is from a design standpoint, when you do that, that is where your bloat comes in. Design bloat is a big, big problem, because bloat is a slippery slope of making your entire system obsolete. Because as bloat builds up, people have to buy X, Y, and Z books to be on the same level of those that own them. And when you have that issue, you then create larger and larger barriers of entry for new players to come in. They don't want that. That's actually a big reason why the PHB +1 rule exists for their community play. They don't want a barrier of entry. And you know what? If you say you don't like that, 5th edition has sold better than any edition that it was owned by Wizards of the Coast. It has done better than any edition, by far. If you don't like it, that's fine. But the market and Wizards as a brand, it is actually one of the best things they've ever done. It is what's going to keep D&D around much, much longer. Bloat was one of the biggest problems in 4th, and it nearly tanked this entire franchise. You need to understand that. Sometimes your preference isn't always what's best for the brand and for the hobby. Going on from that didn't mean to be that negative. Okay, this is just a bit of a pet peeve one, but I've seen several people where they argue with Xanthars, where they go, I spent, in America it's $50, overseas I understand it gets more and more, $65, $80 for Xanthars. They're like, I saw it online for $30, but I wanted the special edition cover, so I dropped $80 for it, and this book isn't worth $80, it's worth maybe $40. You could have bought the book for $30, and you knew that was a price. All that extra value is value you chose to give for that cover. So if you don't think that cover is worth the surplus price, that's its own issue. If you think the contents of the book aren't worth the extra you paid for a different cover, you don't realize what you paid your money for, though it was right in front of you. You just don't want to acknowledge it. If you can buy the book for $30 everywhere, and yes, without getting into the game shops versus Amazon, if it's available at this price on Amazon, consider that the standard price. I hate that they're undercutting game shops. That's an issue you can have with the business, but not with the book itself. Because the thing is they're actually making these books to be priced at the Amazon price. That's where the majority of their sales are, by far. All right, when we're talking about the numbers 5th edition actually puts out and the players and how widespread this edition's gotten, Amazon is what they're actually pricing for. But the MSRP says 50 because they want to make up that in your brick and mortar stores. They could print the MSRP being 500 and people can sell it for whatever they want once you look at what the wholesale price is. Now, yes, the wholesale price for brick and mortars is slightly higher. I think one of my favorites was someone that tried to argue, because someone actually was able to get it for 40 at a brick and mortar. And they went, well, but if it was 40, then they must have been charging you the wrong price. And that means that they were charging at a cheaper price to move the product. And that never works well for a business. If the business isn't taking a loss on that product, that's actually a good thing. Not moving product and product sitting on your shelves when you own a business is a bad thing, because that's money you invested you're not getting back. If you get less back per unit, but you can move more units, you make more money at the end of the day. Someone who thinks that's bad business doesn't understand business and economics. Again, whole different video. But do understand, if you're complaining about the expensive of the limited edition single run hardcover, but you know you can get the normal edition for cheaper, and you feel like it's worth that price but not the limited edition price, you bought the book that's supposed to be worth this price. You chose to pay more. Don't complain to everyone else about that. Moving on from that. Oh yeah. I've seen some people complain. This happened with Volos. It's happening again with Xanthars. Of like, why'd they even bother printing out these? We'll go with Volos. Why'd they even bother printing out these races? This book by, I think it was Kobold Press did the book they were talking about, but I'll just say Kobold Press. This book by Kobold Press already has them. That's not Wizards of the Coast. Those aren't official products. And yes, many third-party products are very high-quality products. Judging by how they showed how the background rules for Adventurers League work and Xanthars and all that, in all honesty, I don't blame them. That organized play is where companies like this actually make their money. It's also where Magic makes a lot of its money, other than people who are just addicted. And they're shifting a very successful organized play model onto 5th edition for them. But here's the other thing. You can love those books as much as you want. From a rules standpoint, something I write up and put on DM's Guild and something Kobold Press writes up and spends 3 times as much just in the printing costs to put on a store shelf, they are just as legal. As in, they aren't. They are house rules someone else wrote and you're okay with. Okay? That's fine. There's nothing wrong with using that. But it existing in that form and it existing as an official form within a Wizards of the Coast sanctioned product that they published and put out is vastly different, even if the material inside were 1-to-1. The trap rules in Xanthars are incredibly close, however they expanded on it a bit and improved it a bit. They are so close to the trap book I put out on DM's Guild a couple years ago. And that's my bestseller. It will not sell anymore. I haven't watched it, but I doubt it will ever sell again because Xanthars exists now. And that's fine. I expected them to eventually, and I actually hope them to eventually come out with an official version. I was just filling the void till that happened. Official always trumps third party. And if the official hasn't put it out yet, they are more than welcome to put it out. That's how it works, guys. Going on from that. Oh. Okay, so this is one of the big ones. We're up to number 9. I didn't do lists and stuff up here. I think a lot, way more people than I think understood, especially when Xanthars came out, understand what Unearthed Arcana actually is. I've had people try to say there's precedent for them reusing material because the fighter had an Unearthed Arcana scout and the rogue in Xanthars has an Unearthed Arcana, so they've done scout twice. Or people go, well, why would I get Xanthars when Unearthed Arcana's out? If you enjoy using Unearthed Arcana and you're okay with how it's written there and how it's presented there, they're not stopping you from using it. Realistically, I'm almost surprised that they haven't, yanked the old Unearthed Arcanas down so you have to get Xanthars. That's kind of what old Wizards of the Coast would have done. But they're not doing that. But anything that comes out in the Unearthed Arcana article on their site, there's a huge disclaimer at the beginning of all of them. It is playtest material, guys. This is not released material. This isn't even technically official material. This is actually lower than DM's Guild material on their book, on their whole chart of what counts. Okay? This is play test. This is stuff they know is already broken, but they want to see what gets pushed and things. They will intentionally put broken things out to see how people react to it. They have said this. It is openly known not to be built for multi-classing, and they say that straight up. And again, at the beginning of every single one of them, they say, reminder that this is playtest material, it's not legal. It's not Adventurers League legal. This is the stuff that you then take, and hopefully what they want you to do is take it, then fill out the surveys and say what you like and dislike. That survey is in how they wrote Xanthars, guys. Don't expect huge changes unless you wanted huge changes and did it in Xanthars. Now that said, they're polling thousands of people. If you didn't like something, you might be in the minority. And guess what? When it comes to an international product, if you're in the minority, they don't care. A public playtest is so that they can figure out what the majority of people think, what the consensus within the community is about things. That is what matters in a playtest. Okay? That's what Unearthed Arcana is. It's not legal. Not at all. It is lower than fan-made stuff. It is the incomplete fan-made stuff that's like, oh, this is still a work in progress, guys. Let me know how, and I will update it. That's what that is. Okay? You need to understand that. Because if you're getting upset that they're republishing Unearthed Arcana, they're going to do one very simple thing. And it's not that they're going to stop reusing Unearthed Arcana. They're going to stop giving you the Unearthed Arcana for free. Okay? They don't have to public playtest. They can private playtest. Public will get them a much larger sample size to work from. But if that becomes a thing, and that's the reason they don't sell books, if that somehow twists into ill will in the community, they'll just stop it. Okay? They're not going to then go and invest resources to keep doing Unearthed Arcana for things that will never see print. It will not happen. Understand that. All right, and with that, we get to the last one. And this has been a common issue with 5th edition, and I feel it a little bit sometimes. But every time people go, there needs to be more 5th edition books out. There aren't enough books. All right, I do think they swung a little hard. 2 books a year, at least one is always an adventure, is a hard swing from 4th. 4th, with them pumping up books basically monthly, all of them hardcover. When those books don't sell, yeah, that sucks for the stores. But then the stores stop ordering them from Wizards, and Wizards was still printing the books. Printing a book costs money. Okay? If you want a bunch of filler material, that's why DM's Guild exists. 100%. They don't have to do the heavy lifting with it. They can throw some stuff out. Personally, if I want to look at anything that is official but not official on DM's Guild, it's stuff by Matt Mercer and why am I blanking on the other developer? Critical Role. I hate it because he's a great guy and I'm forgetting his name. But the stuff the creators put out on their own, you can kind of look as official, and they let them support it, and they get the nice art and everything. But they're not going to pump out books all the time, and it's because they want this system and this edition to last a long, long time. Even with how they're handling it, there's still going to be these slight levels of bloat and power creep. Slowing the books down does that. If you want a bunch of books, you got PDFs. You got third-party publishers. If you want them to be official, well, guess what? They're willing to put out high-quality books and not just shovel out low-quality filler. All right? It's actually a very good design for the community and for you as a consumer. They don't have to do it this way, but it is the safest way to do it, and it's working very well for them. Slowly, books will build. But because of that, we're not in edition 5.5. Personally, I think 5th edition was the original playtest for 5th, and this is 5.5. I don't think they plan on there being a 5.5. I don't. I think they're trying to future proof that. So that's my 10 misconceptions about D&D 5th. With that, I will catch you guys next time. Bye. If you like that video, check out another video over here. Whatever it is, it's probably pretty good. Don't forget to like, share so other people can find the channel, and subscribe right up there. YouTube now won't let me put a link to the Patreon, but there is a link down in the description below. So if you want to help support the channel, check that out, and I will catch you guys next time.